Welcome everybody to another easy update meeting. So every other month on the first Thursday of the month, we give an overview of what has happened and what kind of developments we have done in the easy project. This meeting is being recorded, so just be aware of that. If you speak up, you'll be in the recording. We'll close the recording at the end, and then we'll go into informal Q&A. So if you have any questions but you prefer not being recorded, you can wait until then. Here's a high-level agenda, as usual, so no big surprises here. And we'll also start with a quick introduction for new people, if there is anyone new to the call or who has been at least joining very infrequently and who wants to speak up and introduce themselves. Now is a good time to do so. It doesn't look like there is anyone new, at least, so we'll just continue. And Bob, I think this is your part.
Yes, thanks. So progress update for the file system layer. There's not a lot of news. I think Richard, who's also on the call, opened a PR to add support for macOS 26 so that you can actually run an easy client container on macOS 26. If I remember correctly, that fixes an issue with user IDs and that kind of stuff on macOS. The main thing maybe to mention here, since file system layer also includes all the CVMFS, the Stern VMFS infrastructure, that has been running smoothly for the last couple of months. There were no real issues. And just to give an update, all the servers are currently running the latest kernel version. So most of them are running either RHEL itself or some derivative, Rocky or Alma. So they're all running the latest kernel version, which includes that patch for the copy fail CVE that was announced last week. They're also running the latest version of CERN VMFS. I think there was no update since the last easy update meeting. I think they're working on a new release here. But yeah, this is still the latest version. And finally, one thing that has been on my to-do list for way too long now, since this was also on the slides of the last one or two meetings, is to make a new release of our CVMFS config easy package, which is part of the GitHub file system layer repository, which basically includes the CVMFS configuration files for the easy repositories. Two major things are missing here in the latest release. That's the new Stratum 1 that we've been using for, I think, already like half a year or so, which is hosted by RHEL. That's not part of the latest version of the package yet. So if you use that package, you will not be using that Stratum 1 server. It's not a very big deal, but it's nice to have that added to the list. We also added an option to use the CDN servers in case you're not using proxies. That has also been added a few months ago to the configuration that you get by default. So if you use the configuration files provided by CERN, basically, then you can make use of both of these things. But if you install the package yourself, the CVMFS config easy, that's not part of the package yet. So I want to give that an update and to release a new version of this package soon. I'll try to do that maybe tomorrow or else next week, so that this is up to date again.
And well, maybe Bob, just a question about what the default would be then. So would the default in that configuration file to be to use a CDN or like what? Consider that?
I'll check how we do that in the other version. I think the other one, either you can set it yourself that you want to use CDNs.
Yeah.
Or I'm not completely sure from the top of my head if it falls back automatically in case you're not using proxies. I think it might do that actually.
Oh yeah, that's maybe something that's in the Compute Canada one, right? They have something like that.
Yes, and all these
Logic.
configuration files in the CVMFS config repository have some kind of common configuration file. I suspect it's part of that, where there's some checks on, are you using a proxy? No. Is that on purpose? Then maybe it will skip this. But if you just didn't add any proxies in your config file, then I think it will fall back to using CDNs.
Is there a downside to using a CDN? Is there a reason not to do it?
Speed. I mean, it depends how far away you are from things, right?
Yeah. Then you have no control essentially, and there's no Geo API, I guess, for CDs as well. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and there could be one of these options where you use a auto-detectable site proxy or something. In that case, you might not want to use CDNs, but I think that check is already part of the config, so we can probably reuse that in our own package.
Just to mention, the next ServVMFS version is indeed work in progress 2.14.0, and Valentin was talking about this at the EasyBuild user meeting. It includes some interesting new features, like the support for, or at least the initial support for, setting up a partial replica. So your Stratum 1 mirror doesn't need to have everything anymore. Like if you don't have any ARM CPUs in your system or systems, you can just bypass that whole part and not sync that part of the Easy repository. And another very interesting thing that we should definitely look into is the file bundles, where you can somehow express that things belong together. And if it's pulling in one file, it might as well pull in the other files as well, because it is going to need them anyway. So for like an import TensorFlow, this could make a major difference if you just pull in all the necessary files for that already. And we can probably automatically generate sensible file bundles for many things that we install. So that's definitely an interesting thing to look into.
How would you do the file bundle thing?
Because
you don't, you want to be careful, right? You don't want to bloat, like pull in a lot of bloat. Like you don't want to pull in all of OpenFOAM just because I loaded the OpenFOAM module, right?
Yeah. So for OpenFOAM, it would be very difficult. But for any Python package where import name of the package happens all the time and whatever files that needs, to me, that's a natural file bundle. And that's something you can automatically track what that's actually hitting. It's a bit of extra work, but maybe works.
I mean, one way to do it is to just do LDD on things, right? Just do the LDD.
Yeah, for that could work, but LDD on what? On the main binary, for example.
Yeah, Like how detailed are the file bundles? Like, can you have them per folder? Can you have is it some kind of hierarchical thing, or?
I would suspect it's very similar to catalogs. Where a catalog gives you all the files, and with the file bundle, you just say this part of the catalog should be pulled in together. If one is being pulled in, also pull in the others. But that's exactly why we should look into it and maybe talk to Valentin or the CVMFS team to really understand this. This could really be a very interesting feature for us, I think, and speed things up quite a bit. Okay. Yeah, as usual, one Bob, I guess, is trivial to cover.
Yeah, so it's still growing steadily with approximately 1 GB per day. The current disk usage for a full Stratum 1 of all the 3 repositories that we have. So the production software.easy.io repository, dev.easy.io, and risk5.easy.io combined is like 750 gigabytes right now. But that includes everything, so all the architectures, all the different easy versions. So as Kenneth mentioned, once those partial snapshots are in place, you can probably dramatically reduce the amount of disk space if you are only interested in a subset of CPU targets.
It's quite interesting to me how stable this growth rate is. Because if you do the numbers, it's very close to a gigabyte per day.
Yeah.
It's good. And if we start in ingesting ROCm stuff, so what Casper is working on right now for AMD GPU support, we're probably going to see another bump because these things are quite big as well, at least the base of it. But there's probably a lot of stuff shared between them, so replication wise, or no, deduplication wise, that may make a big difference as well. We'll see. Okay. And then this is also you, Bob.
Yes, also not a lot of new stuff to mention here, maybe except this one issue that I think Alan opened. Was this on Lumi where you guys found out about this?
Yeah, it's not Debian, it's Slash, I think. It's SUSE based.
Okay.
Yeah, SUSE, yeah. It might be their system as well. You don't know. Could be. I don't know. Yeah. But it's an issue anyway. That's for sure.
Yeah, so the thing here is that I guess not a lot of sites are probably using this libnssdb because it seems to work fine with, for instance, LDAP. But we've been using patches provided by Bart Olderman from Compute Canada, where they're also using Gentoo prefix. By default, Gentoo prefix would look for all these kinds of files in the compat layer itself. So in eprefix/var/whatever. He patched a whole bunch of things like libnss to look into the host locations of these for these files, such that you can pick up the host LDAP sockets, for instance, which has been working fine for a while, but now apparently this is an issue because the location of this database used by libnssdb, I think that's a Berkeley database, that's apparently different between certain distros. For instance, Debian uses varlib.misc, while, for instance, Red Hat-based distros use vardb. And the Gentoo package is configured to look in vardb. So that doesn't work on Debian-based systems and apparently not on SUSE. We had some discussions in that issue how we could possibly fix it. So one thing we could do is to sort of revert back to the old behavior that it will look for these files in the compat layer, but that we make these locations variant symlinks on CVMFS, which by default, for instance, for this particular one, points to vardb on the host. But then a sysadmin or anyone else running the CVMFS client could reconfigure a client such that that variant symlink will look in a different location, for instance, varlib.misc. That will probably work, especially for this one. Then the question is, yeah, for which other ones do we want to do that? Don't want to make it too complicated for people using CVMFS clients that they have to reconfigure all these variant symlinks.
But if we keep the defaults to what we're using today, then nobody will have to change anything, right? Because it will just work, right? It's only this case is not fixable without building glibc, right? The problem we have right now is not fixable.
Yeah, no, that's true. But in the patches provided by Bart, there are quite a lot of these things patched in glibc. Very basically deprefixifies a lot of paths by removing the path of the compat layer at the beginning of that path. I guess it may make sense to do it for these other paths as well, but yeah, maybe we should go through them one by one and see what we want to do with them for the next version, maybe even for the current version.
Variant symlinks seems like a good approach to me, and we could pair that with a tool that tells you how to configure your client. So which patients to specify for some of these variant symlinks. So if it notices there's no vardb, it goes hunting for the other options and it tells you what to put in your CVMFS configuration. So this could be something for the easy check, for example. Or maybe an easy client config subcommand that just spits out what you need to put in your CVMFS file. So, I mean, going with variant symlinks doesn't make things worse. It just opens doors to actually fixing. Yeah. So that seems like a good approach to me.
All right. Yeah. And, the other item here has been here for a while already. So if people have ideas for the next easy versions or the next compatibility layer for the next easy version, feel free to post a comment in the GitLab issue, because we will probably start working on a new easy version quite soon. And then the first thing that has to be in place is a compat layer. So if you want to have something changed or added or removed, feel free to post a comment there.
I guess one interesting thing would be Elmont 9, which has a significant performance improvement. And as far as I know, it wouldn't cause any trouble. Even if we still use the old Elmont version to generate our cache, that will still be compatible. So that's just a trivial update, I would guess. It looks scary because it's a new major version, but it's actually not scary at all. Okay. And in software layer, I don't know who made these updates. Was it you, Alan, or?
I did this one.
Or Pedro? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the usual stuff. So here, the main thing is even more of a trend than last time. So the trend is increasing of more things being added to 2025-06 and very few things going now to 23-06. Um, some top level applications worth noting. Lamps is a big one. I think that took a lot of trouble and a lot of effort from I think Lara, who did a lot of work there. That's now on. A bunch of other things like Amber tools and the profiling and checking tools of Scorpy and Scalaska are also there. Also Gromax, which is of this version of Gromax, which is also a big addition. And lastly, the newer CUDA 12.9.1 and cuDNN, which will then be useful for the GPU, NVIDIA GPU stuff.
Yep.
And the next one, yeah, just a very small number of rebuilds this time. RStudio server for both versions, so targeting two different versions of RStudio, but the ones covering both the 2023-06 and 25-06. I don't quite remember. Is this from the small bug that was caught at RStudio itself? I
Yeah,
don't.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's old. Yeah.
Yeah.
The small
So
bug that was there for 14 years, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was a bug fix that was pushed upstream, I think, by Alan to the RStudio team, and then other rebuilds FFmpeg for Zen 5 and for just in general 2306. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
The-
Okay.
Just
like,
well, because it's kind of related, right? And as it happens, I
mm,
was building some R packages yesterday, and I noticed that the default in R is to automatically search /user/include. I don't know if we want to think about patching that,
Mm.
if it's possible even. I imagine that doesn't come from RStudio. It comes from R, but yeah, it comes from R for sure.
And it searches it for what? At installation time
Include
of R?
files, yeah. So some packages are being built right with compilers, and there I just happened to look at it while it was running, and I see it's using includes from user include.
Yeah, we should
So it
figure
might
out.
be interesting to look at some of these steps and see what's happening. Like obviously it's not affecting us too much because we're probably doing it in other places, and probably it's fine most of the time. But I can imagine there's sometimes where it's not fine.
That actually rings a bell. I posted it at least to some people in Slack. I'll put it here in the chat as well. There's an ongoing effort in SPAC to implement sandboxing. So Linux has a feature called landlock, where you can essentially put a subprocess in a box like a shell, and just tell it you have no access to like user includes. And if you do, it just utterly fails. So you can actually make very sure on a pretty low level that it can never see things that are in certain directories. And it's a native feature in the Linux kernel that you can easily hook into from Python code. So this could be something interesting that we should explore in easy build and then see if we can use it in easy, because it would avoid having to patch, for example, R that it doesn't look into user include. It would essentially be blind if it goes there. So that may help protecting the build procedure that we have for easy.
May not be a perfect solution. There might be things that it needs from there.
Yeah, and then you
Still,
can build up an allow list or something. So this is, I don't know
yeah,
how
okay.
painful this would be.
Yeah.
You can allow things on an individual file basis and block a whole directory, so
Oh,
only the
yeah,
files that you can actually see.
cool.
It's a pretty, yeah, it's a feature that people also use to put AI agents in a box so they don't do any shenanigans. So and it's native in the kernel, so looks very interesting.
So how many bugs are there in that?
Sorry?
How many security bugs are there in that one?
I don't know. Well, this is not. I don't think it's a security tool. It's more like to keep things under control.
Yeah,
They have similar
that
features
usually
for.
doesn't always work as you expect it to.
Yeah, we'll see. If it does
Yeah,
catch issues, then no,
yeah.
it's not. Yeah, and Renato was mentioning another tool. Portage has a sandbox tool as well that we may want to look into. Yeah. Okay. More PRs. Is this also you, Pedro, or?
Sorry, I was writing a note. Yes. Main thing here for the software layer scripts, I think, yeah, big push in the AMD GPU support. I think Caspar will go into detail about that later in the dedicated slides for that. There's a kind of a flurry of PRs targeting that. Such a change, well, small but maybe important change to ArchDetect for vendor fallback for ARM CPUs, so that things now fall back to yeah, specific CPU vendors, and you don't always land in the most far back fallback possible. Also worth noting the script to reproduce an existing stack. I think that was an effort by Bob and Kaspar, and that's really handy now also going forward in whenever we have a new CPU target, then you don't have to kind of, yeah, there's a method to kind of follow that in a structured way, in kind of more automated way. And also worth mentioning that the support for compute capability 7.0 in the newer cuDNN versions is gone. So that's just because that's just no longer in support. So if you have GPUs with CC7 like we do, that's a concern. And then there was a
the Volta
sorry?
series. Volta series.
Yeah,
V100.
in our case, it's the V100s and
Yeah,
related cards. And then there's a lot of other small PRs that some are just very small fixes, others are slightly bigger, but like not really user-facing things.
That CUDNM thing is related to QDAV13, I guess, because that's where it actually drops.
Yeah, it's related to that.
Yeah, and this combination in EasyBuild was, I guess, not very luckily chosen, let's put it like that, because the QDAV version that is used by this cuDNN version still works, but cuDNN itself is apparently too new already. So yeah, regarding that, it would have been nice to maybe have picked a slightly older version of cuDNN for this particular CUDA version in EasyBuild, but that's too late now, I guess, to revert back to an older version.
Just give some more of your money to NVIDIA. I mean, they deserve it. Good of the old Volta GPUs.
But that's why the hook now just simply says this cuDNN version doesn't work anymore, while the corresponding CUDA version still works. Yeah.
Anything below 13, I would say. Yes, okay. And then RISC-V. I guess this is you, Bob, or Julian, actually, if he's in the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, I prepared the slide, but Julian, feel free to. You've done most of the work. Yes.
Go on. I can add anything if I think of something, but
okay,
as the slide is yours, just go.
So we've been building a new RISC-V software stack in dev.easy.io, so no longer in risc5.easy.io. It's built on top of the compat layer, which is actually part of software.easy.io, so we consider that to be sort of stable. But for the software installations, we're still adding them to dev.easy.io in order to, try things out and see if things work. And if we are not happy with it, we can just easily get rid of them again and retry from scratch. So in the last meeting 2 months ago, I think we had about 175 installations. We just exceeded 300 today. And the great thing to mention here is that Julian put a lot of effort in getting the LLVM toolchain LFOS in place, and that's now in place since about a week or so. LFOS 2025B is available. There's also a page in the documentation, so that's in the first link on the second link on the page in the first bullet item, which explains a bit about the purpose of this repository, also how you can use it on a RISC-V system. And we're actually working now on a similar kind of software overview as we have for the production repository, but then one that's specifically for the RISC-V installation, so that you can get a nice overview of all the available tools. It's still moving quite a lot, this repository, so we're adding more and more applications. Initially, it was a lot of work to get all the tool chains and all these lower level tools in place, but we're now focusing more on end user applications as well, like lamps, etc. And I think, Julian, you were working on supporting EasyBuild for more native installations, so not only generic ones, which we've done so far, but also CPUs with vector instructions, for instance.
Yeah, that's my focus right now. I will submit a pull request very soon to the software layer scripts repo.
Okay. Yeah, nice. So this is actually progressing quite well. And to me, I'm still a bit surprised that we're not hitting more issues with RISC-V than what we've seen so far. I mean, we are hitting problems, and things like memory is a challenge for sure on RISC-V, but overall, it's actually going quite smooth, I would say. No, at least it surprises me a bit. Maybe things will change when we go to vector instructions and a bit hairier.
Yeah, maybe when we try to like optimize vector builds, vector capable, we hit some issues, but let's see.
Yeah, I want to see the NumPy test suite on a vector build of RISC-V, for example. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay, then this is a high-level overview of the production repository software EasyIO. The older version, 2306, like Peter already highlighted, is stagnating a bit, so it is not getting a whole lot of additional software. We're definitely not at the limit here of what we could add, but just attention is shifting to the newer version, which has newer tool chains, newer software versions, and so on. That's just a more interesting one to look into. The software overview in the documentation now has a nice way of filtering things as well per easy version even. So that makes it easy to figure out what is available even without having a system where easy is directly available. And then the 2506 version, so the current, let's say, most active version of Easy, that one is still getting lots of additional software installations. So we're slowly heading towards 1,000 installations per CPU target there. We already have 12,000 in total across all the 15 CPU targets that we have for 2025-06. So that's one extra compared to the previous version, because we've added AMDs and 5 builds as well now to this version. And only to this version, we're not going to do this for the older version. So this is growing quite well. We've added like 10% extra new software projects compared to 2 months ago. The CUDA stuff is now also well in place and mature and documented. And I think one of the next goals we'll have, at least in terms of CPU targets, is having optimized builds for also Graviton 4 and 5. This is sort of on our roadmap, although we haven't really actively started looking into that yet. There may be more surprises there. Although since we're already building for NVIDIA Grace, I guess there should not be many surprises at least. And then, once we have a new easy version, so like Bob mentioned, that's essentially the plan for the next weeks, months. We want to kickstart an easy version 26 dot something. So .05 or .06, depending on when the compat layer gets built. That's going to be with then a newer toolchain with the FOSS 2026.1 toolchain. And there we're going to gradually build things up again. It's definitely going to take us some time to have a significant amount of installations there, because even in easy build, there's not many easy configs files yet with that new toolchain. Once that is in place, we'll start thinking about what we're going to do with the old one. So having some kind of archiving mechanism with alarm bells, with deprecation warnings for the people still using it. So we'll start thinking about how we can have an end of life for this older easy version. It's not going to disappear this year, but we do need a plan to go ahead. And then here, Bob, I think you spent a lot of time on the Zen 5 builds.
Yeah, so already last time I think we reported that we were at like 85% or something of the stack. And then quite soon after the last easy update meeting, we completed the stack, so that was in sync already with all the other stacks. That worked out quite well using the script that Pedro already mentioned as well in software layer scripts. So that's something that Casper and I spent quite a lot of time on, to have a Python script that allows you to basically say, I have this Zen2 stack, please dump all the applications that are part of that stack into easy stack files, so including all the dependencies, which we by default don't put in the regular easy stacks. And also put all those easy stacks in the right build order so that we sort of reproduce an existing stack in the exact same way as before. With the same easy config, same easy blocks, etc. So that worked out pretty well. We only encountered a few minor issues, but other than that, it worked out really well. So that's done now. Also the accelerator stack, so all the NVIDIA compute capability, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 stacks are available for Zen 5. The only reason why we haven't really made this public yet, so you won't pick up this stack yet on a Zen 5 system, is because we saw some weird differences in the CPU flex reported on different Zen 5 nodes that we have access to. So we tried out this on so just LS CPU, for instance, on 3 or 4 or 5 different Zen 5 nodes, and we got completely different outputs on all of them. Now, most of these flags don't really seem to have an impact on performance. It's just like kernel stuff or security stuff, etc. But just to be sure, we wanted to make sure that this stack that we mostly build on AWS Zen 5 VMs, that they work well on different Zen 5 machines, physical machines, but also that the performance was as expected. And so far, we haven't really found any issues with that. So everything just seems to work fine in a functional way, but also performance-wise, everything looks okay. So in one of the last easy support meetings, internal support meetings that we had, we sort of decided that we're going to make the stack available now. That just means that we have to merge a few more open pull requests, which are already there. For instance, this PR162 and software layer scripts that basically adds Zen 5 support to our Arch detect scripts, which means that if you then initialize easy on a Zen 5 machine, it will actually pick up the Zen 5 software stack. So as long as we haven't done that yet, you can already make use of the stack. Then you just have to set this override and say, I want to have this Zen 5 stack on my machine, and then initialize easy. Yeah, that's it for Zen 5.
How scared are you about rebuilding the whole thing for Graviton 4 or 5? I mean, the scripts that you've worked on should be very helpful.
Definitely, yeah. So we can just rerun them again, or make use of the same easy stacks that we use for Zen 5, and then add the remaining ones that we've added in the meantime.
The question is it worth it, or should we only do it for easy 2026?
Yeah, that may be related to what I was going to say. Richard recently had a good point. Since this version has been alive already for almost a year, people may have built their own stacks on top of Zen 4 stacks for their Zen 5 machines. If we're now going to make this stack available, Zen 5, it will automatically pick it up, and stuff may have been installed into the wrong prefix if you did local installations, because it would have ended up in Zen 4 prefixes, which means that we could break side stacks built locally on Zen 5.
Yeah.
Which is maybe not too much of a deal if we're not going to wait for too long. But since this stack is already almost a year old, I would, yeah, I'm not sure. maybe in favor of then delaying it for the next version.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's true. I mean, there is an easy escape mechanism. You can just set the override to Zen 4 and then happily continue.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you only need to bypass the CPU detection if this causes trouble. Yeah. I guess we could ask in Slack and the mailing list, or just announce it that we're going to enable the detection for Zen 5, and if anybody sees trouble, maybe we'll ring a bell.
Yeah, we also discussed that in the, I think you were not there, but in that EESSI support meeting. Then we indeed had the same idea also because this stack is already done and complete, available. It makes sense to release it indeed with a warning saying if you have built your own stack in a Zen 4 prefix, then be careful and maybe set the override to make sure that you keep using that in the meantime. But for the other Graviton stacks that you mentioned, yeah, maybe it makes sense to just postpone that until 2026. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting a huge demand for that, but we should start supporting those as well. So maybe 26 is the sensible option there. Yeah. Because it's again effort, of course, to chase those close to 1,000 installations now and get them up to the same level. That's just extra effort.
That's also a lot of work. Yeah.
Is it really worth it? No. Richard, do you have a raised hand?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what Bob said. My concern in this was not directly the sites, it's more users on sites. So for example, local users which have been using the Zen 4 stack for all this time, even if the site admins like agree for offering the Zen 5, but users will not know this. And
it may see
that's
different
the
performance.
If they have built anything in their home directory or project directory, it will just break.
Or they may be seeing reproducibility issues as well, where all of a sudden they start using Zen 5 binaries, which may behave a bit different from what the Zen 4s were doing.
That should be classified as a site problem. If they do that, they take the fall.
Well, but the thing is, it's happening underneath the feet of the sites. When we enable the CPU detection, everybody who sets up
okay. If you
normal way,
I thought you were talking about the overriding still.
No. Well, the assumption is that the sites will not be overriding anything now. They'll just go what the detection does.
Yeah.
And the detection falls back to Zen 4 currently. But once we flip the switch here, they will suddenly get Zen 5 instead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was focusing on something else at the same time. So.
For example, on our local sites, I already set the override just in case we go and set it into production.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, we probably want to give some guidance on the override because you only want to set the override where it matters, right? So for the next EESSI version, you want to make sure that override's not set, right? So that you actually transition to Zen 5. So you probably need like an LMOD hook, I suspect, for that. But that'd be the easiest.
So to make it easy, version dependent, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, the concern is that users who build software on top of the Zen 4 stack, which we offered instead of the Zen 5, those will be like the most risky ones.
Yep. We can ask in Slack and in the mailing list, see how broad of an issue it is. I know the people in Brussels, for example, have a Turing system, but they haven't deployed EESSI there yet. So there's no way their users will be hit by this. They're about to do it. And yeah, so they're going to be on the edge of getting the auto detection or not. But yeah, we can listen around in the community and maybe just write up a blog post like we're flipping the switch on Zen 5 auto detection. If you see trouble, here's what you can do, because it's like a temporary issue, right? So a blog post is maybe better than a page in the documentation.
But maybe it's also something we should discuss for future EESSI versions. I think we've done that in the past as well, where we said maybe we should not introduce new CPU targets for existing versions. So far, we've been doing it a few times, and although the rebuilding often works well, it brings in other issues, and especially now we're going to a sort of yearly easy release.
Yeah, then the gap is a lot smaller.
Then it might make sense to say, well, we're just going to postpone this until we have a new version.
Yeah, makes sense. It saves us time as well. It saves us headaches for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, the experiment is useful. So that's, I mean, we don't have to release anything, right? But the experiment of building the software might turn up something, right? So worth doing just to see what happens, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't have to go through any of the workflow of actually merging anything back in or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even the script is useful. I think Flamefire, Alexander, ran into the same kind of issues when he tried to rebuild all the modules from an easy version to get a hierarchical naming scheme. Then he had the exact same kind of issues as we have with rebuilding stack for a new CPU target. So maybe the script could even be used for that it spits out these easy stack files, which you can use to run a module only on the easy stacks. Mm-hmm. To change whatever you want to change in the module files.
Yeah, my hope is that soon in EasyBuild we can actually add support for doing multiple module naming schemes at the same time. So you can just do the basic one and the hierarchical one in one go, and just reship all the modules in easy, and you pick which one you want. But yeah, that's not that's a hope for now. Nothing much more than that. Okay.
Would you then support all the currently available modular schemes in EasyBuild?
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. It's going to be up to you which ones you install. So you will be able to configure EasyBuild. I want this one as the main naming scheme, so the one used during the build.
I mean, for easy.
For easy, yeah, why not? If we can do two, we might as well do all. As long as we don't run into trouble with any of them, why not? Yeah.
It's also Lua modules and Tickle modules, right? We should also ship.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's a much bigger headache for easy though, because we have some logic in places that will have to, not many, but there are places.
Now the good news is the good news is the first system that will be interested in this is the system that has the Tickle based modules tool lead developer. So we know he's keen on helping out with any issues we see there. So in that sense, that would be helpful, I think. Yeah. Okay.
The other thing that could be possible for easy is to switch to Tickle modules for the software, not for the infrastructure stuff, not, but the software we could, like, there's no reason, we don't have a strong reason to stick with Lua modules, right?
No. Yeah, we should at least keep that door open to be able to switch to that and make sure maybe in some future easy version that we use those as default or whatever. Yeah. At some point that could happen. Right. I think Thomas couldn't join the call, so I'll briefly cover this. Updates to the build and deploy bot that we have for easy has been relatively stable. Last release was in January. There are some improvements to the tests. A small fix for making parsing of scontrol a bit more stable. There is an ongoing effort to add support for GitLab in the bot. So that's a pull request that has been happening for a while. So Sonder here is one of the main, who's here in the meeting, is one of the main people who has been working on this. I think it's in a pretty good state. I'm not sure, Sonder, if you're up for speaking up, but it's in a pretty good state. What was interesting to me is noticing that GitLab didn't actually have support for is it signed events, or at least events that you can verify that are really coming from GitLab and not somewhere else. So with this webhook secret that GitHub has, it uses that to, I guess it's signing the events. And then when you get the event, you can actually verify whether it was signed with that webhook secret. GitLab was just sending the secret itself with the event. And then you could sign it yourself, which is I don't know, am I misunderstanding something or were they missing something? That was just very weird. And we actually noticed that there was an open GitLab issue that was open for years. And when we started poking on them on, is this still progressing? They closed it. And then after a while, they opened it again. And now I think it's actually live in GitLab where they have this implementation properly in place. So that it's a bit weird how that has gone, but it looks like what we need is now actually supported in GitLab. I haven't looked into the details yet. So before they didn't have any signed event support at all. So at least that looks like it's off the table. And yeah, all the effort that Sander has done should definitely be looked at and should be merged. I think Thomas has done a lot of the reviewing work here, and I don't know much about the details, but it's yeah, that would be a very welcome development for sure. That the bot can also talk to GitLab repositories. And then there's another small PR that I don't know much about.
So kind of related to this, I have a idea where maybe if we transitioned to an easy stack repository in GitLab and the bot had permissions to do it, we could upload confidential issues that contain LLM outputs, for example. Right. So if you have a PR and then you do the build, right now, at least when we were talking about the LLM stuff, we were saying, there's output, but we don't want to put it into the issue because we don't know what's inside.
Yeah.
In GitLab, you have confidential issues, right? So you could actually store the information in the repo without exposing it to the outside world, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we have that capability in GitHub at all. Yeah.
No, you don't. It has to be private repo, which means
I thought you were going to say something else, which is maybe also interesting. If we move the current software layer repository to GitLab, we're really pulling apart the easy stack files from the scripts, which again closes the door on potential malicious stuff going on in the scripts because they're totally disentangled. They are already now in two separate repos, but if we move into a different platform, that may be even better. So that could be a second reason to consider this.
I mean, the contribution stuff gets a bit harder for people, perhaps, but
Yeah.
like for us, it's not too bad, eh? I mean, because even on our CI front, like if we use because we have this easy GitLab component thing as well, like we can still do a lot of our CI without too much trouble, I think. And it's interesting to consider future.
Yeah. So it's definitely a very welcome development, this, yeah. So very happy that somebody has been actively looking into this in recent, well, I want to say weeks, but it's really months. I think it's been going on for a while. Okay. Then, yeah, I kept this slide here. It was there last time as well, but the overview of available software in the documentation has improved a lot. Has these nice labels. You can even search for easy versions if you're only interested what's available in 2506, for example. If you use this as a search term, it will zoom in to only that part. You can see which software has NVIDIA GPU support. As soon as we add AMD GPU support, those labels should actually pop up automatically because it's already prepared in the way the overview is generated. So this has improved a lot. If you haven't seen this, definitely take a look. And there's lots of other changes in the documentation as well. Lara, was it you preparing this or was it somebody else?
I made this one as well, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, thing of note, there's also a slide for this later, the Easy webinar series that's ongoing right now. So you can find the summaries and the slides and the recordings of the sessions that have already taken place. There's also still the information about the happy hours. There's two new blog posts, one about an update on Easy on the Federation platform and the EuroHPC Federation platform. And also another one with a contribution by Adam from EESSI in Austria about using or the process of choosing and using Easy as a base stack for the new Austrian national system Musica. So that's also quite interesting there. Then we have some pages on I think Richard made the contribution for the Apple container tool, and there's also some documentation there. You can find information about it and how to use it. Other nice improvement is using EasyBuild's loose version functionality to compare the version numbers so that the software overview page now lists things in a nice order. I think that was a submission by Bob. And then there were other many other minor changes to the documentation, some corrections and things like that. Yes. That's it. Page.
So this is getting a lot of love, and I like that we keep getting additional blog posts in for Easy. I think that's very nice. I'm trying to do that also for Easy Build. It's less easy there because we don't have that habit of writing blog posts yet in the Easy Build community. But in Easy, it seems to be working out quite well. So if anybody is interested in writing up a blog post on something you have done with Easy or are planning to do, please reach out.
The one thing I was wondering for Easy Build is why is it a separate web page? I mean, I get why it's a separate web page, but I think it's nice that it's searchable in the docs in our case, right?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we can reconsider that and relocate it, and just with a simple auto redirect, avoid any broken links. Definitely possible. Yeah, maybe we should reconsider that in Easy Build as well. Okay. I mean, that doesn't. We can keep the blog.easybuild.io link. It just points somewhere else. That's fine. Then Easy Test Suite, Caspar, I think.
Yes. I think the main thing that we've been working on is to make it easier to run the test suite on multiple Easy versions. I mean, you could already do that by just loading a different Easy module and starting the test suite again. But now we're exploring if we can use the concept of reframe programming environments, basically to have reframe load the different Easy versions for us, and then in one run be able to test all the different versions. It's a work in progress, but we're getting really close. It works already. The thing is that reframe does a lot of module avail calls, and that is just quite slow. So what we're planning to do is actually cache those results and then reuse them to speed things up. And then there's a whole lot of smaller fixes and changes that we've made. One of the somewhat bigger ones is that we've pulled the HPC test lib files into the Easy Test Suite itself, because reframe basically said like, okay, we'll not keep developing this any further. So this is kind of a first step, but eventually we want to just integrate that into the main test files themselves. So no longer have this separation in a library test and an implementation. There was also still one test that wasn't using the Easy Mixing class yet. We ported that one as well. That makes it actually easier for us to maintain. And then there's a whole list of small fixes that are, kind of details for the crowd here.
So after that top PR is merged, does that mean we have a 1.0 version of the test suite, or do you have other plans?
We will have a new release. That's definitely the plan. I don't know if it's going to be a 1.0.
Well, I guess the plan is to have
I feel
a 1.0.
like it should be something really special for 1.0, no?
Well, the end of the multi-X scale project that made all this happen.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, that would be nice to have a milestone there. Yeah. Okay. Then, some updates on Easy Build itself as well. It had a new minor release of 5.3, although it includes a bunch of interesting things, like support for ROCm-based toolchains. So not only installing the ROCm ecosystem itself, but having also a compiler toolchain based on that, which we, for lack of inspiration, called RFOS. So it's just a copy of the FOSS toolchain, but with ROCm LLVM as a compiler, set of compilers. It includes the toolchains. It includes improvements to Easy Blocks and a new generic Easy Block for installing ROCm components. It doesn't actually include Easy config files yet for any of that, although the pull request that does add that has been merged recently and will be included in the next Easy Build release, probably a 5.3.1. So that's a very welcome development, which has been in the works for a long time. For now, it's focused on ROCm 6.4, but we already have some good idea on what needs to happen for ROCm 7. And it looks like we maybe even getting help from AMD on that as well. And Alan, you already have a question, or?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like now that they're fixed, and the open MPI support for the MPI ABI standard, that's not in place, right? That issue is still open.
That the pull request is still open. I'm keeping an eye on that in open MPI, but it's still ongoing.
Yeah. It's a shame not to have it for. It'd be great if we had if we could have that for the next release, but that's life, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I still see it moving. I see commits being added in a pull request on a weekly basis, so it is still moving. No idea how close they are. I suspect this may become an OpenMPI 6 release, right? If they start supporting the new MPI ABI standard. So, and knowing how long it took them between OpenMPI 4 and 5, yeah, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But maybe we'll find some people soon. Like I imagine some of these people will be at ISC in June in Hamburg, and maybe then we can learn more about what their actual plans are. There's definitely a BOF session, I think, on MPI, on the new MPI ABI standard, or at least a talk. So I expect to hear.
Yeah, the disappointing thing is if we had chosen MPitch, when it lands, we can just inject it, right? But the other way around, we can't do that, right? So we're stuck for another year. But okay, that's fine. Well, the other thing to mention,
we're not necessarily stuck, at least with the LLVM based toolchains. We have MPitch variants of that. So if we're going to start experimenting already, but that means more easy configs and more testing and more fitting.
Yeah. It's maybe not worth it. I mean, it's like the only place where it really mattered was like somewhere like Lumi, right? Where you have like the Cray machines.
Yep.
And now it doesn't matter as much, right? The more recent stuff, so it's not as important. And the other thing that came up in the support meeting the other day that's pretty interesting is the injection of MPI can tie you to a CUDA, can tie you to a CUDA version. So we actually need the capability to inject on a per toolchain basis, or somehow on a CUDA basis, right? So this is a problem I hadn't considered, and we don't have the machinery for that right now, but we need to think about it.
Okay, so that's something we need to explore for the new easy version, then what's necessarily there, because it's difficult to change this.
Yeah, it's actually not too bad if we think about, like, because we can just rebuild the stuff that's been built with MPI and CUDA support, because basically you just want an alternative location. And you want to say, like, everybody looks in here unless I want you to look in this one, right? And then it only matters for the things that have like that CUDA, right? That have a CUDA.
Okay. That's not that bad.
It's not that bad, yeah.
Okay. Other things that got included in EasyBuild 5.3 is support for staged software installations, where you're essentially tricking EasyBuild into installing into a directory while it thinks it's installing somewhere else. So that's using the BWrap tool, the bubble wrap tool, where you're just, let's say, bind mounting one directory to another, and that way you can trick EasyBuild into installing in a different location. That's helpful for sites that are working on installations but want to have a separate deploy step. So first installing in one place and then deploying somewhere else without actually changing their installation prefix. I'm not sure if it will be useful in Easy, because we already have our build container where we do bind mounts and binding directories from A to B. So in that sense, it's not really useful. But maybe, who knows, in the future it could be interesting to look at.
Could we do the same thing with bubble wrap instead of an overlay FS? I mean, it is an overlay FS, I suppose.
It's not an overlay FS, so bubble wrap is something entirely different, but it uses the same mechanism underneath, namespaces. I think I've played with bubble wrap before, so when we were still using Fuse overlay FS as a tool for doing the overlay, which we're now using Union FS in our build container, I looked at bubble wrap as well, and it was not a perfect match to what we need. It is a very interesting tool, but maybe not in the easy build environment.
Does it allow you to write in a read-only location? Because it kind of mounts some directory over it. No.
It just maps the directory A to directory B, but if directory A is not writable, you're stuck. So it's not an overlay. It's literally mapping one to the other. So it's less sophisticated than an overlay.
But you could use it to give yourself a performance bump, right? So if you're writing to a parallel file system, you could avoid that and write /temp and then do that step later on.
Yeah, then you have to be careful how you do the move because you're doing it in the cross file systems. But yes, that's possible. And that's something that Bart in Canada has looked into because they have a CephFS file system, which is horribly slow when, for example, installing MATLAB. And just by mapping a temporary directory to the path where it would land on and doing that installation, it finishes in minutes instead. So you can definitely use this mechanism for that type of situation. Then just a smaller thing, for Python packages, there's an enhanced sanity check based on pip list, which will verify that the names of the extensions and the versions that EasyBuild knows about actually match with what's getting installed. That mostly matters for metadata and making sure that if people check which extensions are installed through the module command, that they actually are getting accurate information. Now we're making this opt-in for now. It's only enabled when you're uploading test reports and pull requests. So we want to gradually start introducing this into EasyBuild, and it will probably become enabled by default in EasyBuild 6, which is expected for spring next year. And then the easyconfig files for the new common toolchains have been added as well in EasyBuild 5.3. So that's like the highlights for this EasyBuild release, which we are already using now in Easy to install any new software. Alan, maybe you should cover this one, EFP.
Yeah, so Easy is now available on 8 of the 9 Euro HPC supercomputers with different approaches, some different approaches on different machines. And the only one that's left is Jupyter. And the groundwork Jupyter in the end is going to be the most advanced setup that we will have. But the machine's not in production yet, so it's not there. The way it's done in Lumi is a little bit brittle at the moment, and because it's done by attaching what is it called, constraints to nodes in Slurm, and that's disappearing from time to time, unfortunately, because I learned today that it's because their database is running out of memory, and it just crashes. When they bring it back up, the information is gone, and somebody has to manually put it back. So it does disappear from that time. That hopefully will be mitigated next week. That's what they said. That's the last I heard. So it won't be disappearing anymore. Leonardo is the one that's most brittle, that uses something called
AFuse.
Is it AutoFS? AFuse, yeah. Yeah, so you use something called AFuse, which is a user space thing. Works fine in a logged-in shell, the way they have it set up, but it doesn't work outside that because it's actually not using Slurm to do the mount. It's actually using profiles, and so those profile scripts are not run if you're not in an interactive setup. So it doesn't work, and then it doesn't work multi-node as well. So it's brittle, and I couldn't get it to work multi-node, and so hopefully we'll arrange a meeting with them. So hopefully that'll be fixed. So it should be on all 9. Once Jupyter comes online, it should be on all 9. That's all thanks to EFP. So it's a kind of a requirement that's coming from EFP. And the AI factories will also be required to integrate with EFP, and there's some documentation about that. These conversations are starting, right? So these AI factories, this stuff is starting to begin. So we will be there, and we are talking to people already. And then the first release happened back in April, and the federated software catalog, which is basically this at the moment, just Easy, and that is there. That might be extended in the future to beyond what Easy actually ships, but today they're one and the same, and that's considered beta there right now. So we didn't actually make promises about what would be available until stage 2 of PFP, which is like next year, but it is out there already. And then, your HPC is online. And if you get a project in your HPC, you have to go through EFP now. But hopefully that's a good experience.
What's also worth mentioning, there's an upcoming system in Sweden, since Oka is on the call here as well, Arrhenius, and we're already scheduling meetings with the Arrhenius team to see how they will be making easy available on their system as well. So even for upcoming systems, the idea is to essentially be there when the system is up and running, or at least when it's production ready. Easy will be there from the very first day.
Which is kind of that you're scheduling meetings with them is sort of interesting because I have no information whatsoever from them.
Okay. Well, we could probably pull you into that as well, okay, if you want to be in the loop. Since you have some knowledge about CVMFS and Easy Build, at least we can. If you're up for it, we can pull you in.
Yeah, might as well.
All right. Yeah, so you'll hear us making more noise about this, of course, coming soon. As soon as I think Jupyter is production ready, we need to throw some kind of party or I don't know what. Then on the GPU support, Caspar?
Yep. Yeah, so this is what I mentioned in the chat. Like, you've been stealing my mojo, so a little bit has already been covered by Pedro, of course.
Okay.
So we have the latest, the CUDA 12.9.1 corresponding to nickel installations. We also added OSU and nickel for CUDA 12.8 and 12.6. Those CUDA installations were already there, but OSU and nickel weren't. For the Zen 5, basically CUDA packages were still missing, so we've made a PR that brings that on par with the other CPU targets, and basically puts all the CUDA packages there as well. And then there was something called SPH EXA. I have no idea what it does, but it was built with CUDA 12.9.1. And then we have on the next slide, I think.
The SPHX, I think Alan maybe knows a bit more. This is for Pablo,
I don't know what
right?
it does, but it was for Pablo. Yeah, Pablo was working with somebody or some of their researchers. They used this or developed this, and yeah, we tried to help them out to get it shipped. It took a while because of how to do things. There is something else worth mentioning for the NVIDIA GPUs. So we hardened a little bit our check for.
Yeah, that's coming. That's coming.
Oh, it's coming.
So this is just the software layer part.
Yeah.
The better part is in software layer scripts.
Yeah.
So indeed, we fixed the CUDA runtime check. So before it was actually doing the wrong thing. It was checking your hardware's CUDA KP rather than your driver version. And what we wanted to know is your driver new enough to run with the CUDA toolkit that we ship? And if not, we want to print some error or warning or something informative. And on top of that, we also had a wrong comparison. So basically, we were doing a string comparison instead of a comparison between numbers. And in practice, this means that it almost always worked out, except if you were on a compute capability 12.0 card. Then you were out of luck. So we first noticed this when we started building on the Groningen hardware that hosts the 12.0 cards when we do the builds for Easy as well. That basically triggered us to start fixing this. So now we've changed the check to make it dynamic. So basically, before it was checking a file that was put in place by this link NVIDIA host library script, and then that would require you to rerun that script after every driver update in order to update the file. But now we've just made the check dynamic. It directly queries, I think it's NVIDIA SMI, grabs some output from that to figure out what is your driver version and is that new enough. So yeah, that was a substantial change. Then some smaller stuff for CUDA 12.8. So basically, by default, we specify the 10.f and 12.f optimization targets if we build for CUDA compute capability 10 and 12. However, that doesn't work with CUDA 12.8 because MVCC simply doesn't recognize those optimization targets yet. It does work from 12.9 onwards. So for 12.8 specifically, we just reverted back to 10.0 and 12.0. I see there's a typo there. So 12.0F goes to 12.0, of course, not to 10.0. Then there was a PR that fixes the location check for the CUDA driver. And as was already mentioned by Pedro, we skipped the cuDNN installation for cuDNN 9.12 or later when we're targeting the CUDA Complete Capability 7.0. That's simply a combination that's not supported by NVIDIA. So we now have a module in place that just prints an error saying this is not supported. And I think that's it for the NVIDIA stuff.
Yeah.
And then for the AMD stuff, again, as Kenneth mentioned, the ROCm-based toolchains have been defined in the EasyBuild framework. There's an easy block for ROCm components. Basically, ROCm, the whole ecosystem consists of several components that are installed in a similar way. So it made sense to have one easy block for that. And then on top of that, there's a PR that was created with 35 easy configs for different ROCm components. That was a pretty massive PR. That's merged now. As Kenneth mentioned, it's for ROCm 6.4.1, so that's kind of old, but that's also because, that's basically where we have started to work on back in the day. And now we could either finish it, like leave it halfway and move on to ROCm 7, but then we have nothing, so we figured let's finish this one first. And now, especially Jan Andre is looking into building stuff with the ROC, so I think that's ROCm 7.2 onwards.
The ROCm 6.4.1, I think, is newer than what Lumi has. Maybe Kurt can correct me if that's wrong.
I think so, yeah.
So it's old.
Our system ROCm is 6.3.4, but
6.3, yeah.
we run some environments with 6.4.4. Most AI containers, for instance, the new ones are 6.4.4, even some 7.0 already. And with the 25.09 programming environment, we also use ROCm 6.4.4.
Okay. So
I wonder why you're using 6.4.1 and not the .3 or the .4 release, which are important bug fix releases.
Yeah, I guess we just wanted to finish what we had with
historical reasons. Yeah. Yep. Somebody started this a long time ago and it dragged on for very long. And then we figured, are we going to change it halfway? No, in the end, we decided to just go ahead and have something finished. And then we
should be trivial to just bump this to the latest 6.4. Is 6.4 the latest? Or is it the 6.5?
6.4.4 is the latest in the 6.4 branch, but I'm not sure if that adds so much on top of 6.4.3.
Okay.
Quite often, the last branch is to make it more suitable for Windows. The last update is sometimes just for Windows.
Yeah. Yeah. So 6.4 should be easy, and 7.2.
7 is a big step.
Yeah. That's going to be very different.
Also, MPI wise, you can run into different issues.
And also in the way of we're supposed to install this, because I think from 7.2 onwards, they're really pushing us towards the ROC tooling.
Yeah, there I have no experience because the Lumi driver at the moment stops at 7.0.
Yeah. Okay.
So work in progress is still to define higher level ROCm-based toolchains, so our own MPI, our FOSS, etc. There's open PRs for that, but we have to make sure that they work correctly. So that's the work in progress.
Yep.
And then I have another slide on the easy side of things. So we did some successful tests with Easy Extend. We built a ROCm-enabled GROMAX and ran it on Lumi. That worked fine. I mean, you might wonder, okay, with Easy Extend, you're not really using Easy. Well, that's true, and it's not true because you're still using the compatibility layer. So, okay, the fact that worked was a nice encouragement, at least. Then in software layer scripts, we had to do several modifications of existing scripts that, expect accelerators, but only NVIDIA accelerators. So we basically had to add the AMD support to it. So that means we expanded Easy Extend. We modified Architect. For now, only we allow overriding the AMD GPU architecture, so it doesn't pick up on it automatically yet. That's intentional because we want to build a little bit of experience and be convinced that this thing works before we actually make it completely public. Then we've updated an EasyBuild hook, which checks that GPU software is actually installed in GPU prefixes, but then it needs to know what GPU software is. So before it was just looking for, does this depend on CUDA or is this CUDA? Now it knows that it also needs to look for ROCm stuff. And then finally, there's a PR in the software layer, which is for ROCm LLVM. That we've done all the builds for all of the targets that we intended to support. I think I forgot to add the targets here, but we basically will support I think it's pretty much all of the 8 targets that 641 supports.
So that
The
means
builds are done.
MI 100, MI 200 series, MI 300 series, and then Radium Pro.
Yes. So CDNN 1, 2, and 3, and then RDNA 2, 3, and 4, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure. Don't pin me down on it. If you want to know, look in the PR and you see what targets it's been built for.
So how do you deal with the zoo of different Chromax versions for Roku?
The zoo of different Chromax versions. You mean the hip versus sickle builds?
There's hip versus sickle, then there's different FFT libraries.
Yeah, we haven't dealt with it
DKFFT
yet.
is much faster. I mean, can be significantly faster than HEFFTE, but doesn't run on more than one GPU. Then HEFFTE has to be used for multiple GPUs, but comes at a cost on a single GPU.
Yes.
I imagine
I know
these will all be
that Bob also
variants.
looked into this at some point, especially with the underlying libraries. For the hip versus sickle story, I mean, we just did our build with hip. We saw that the build on Lumi was done with sickle.
We use both. We have both.
Okay, you have both. Okay, I didn't know. But we also created an easy config now with sickle. I think we'll just contribute both upstream and then people can pick and choose.
Yeah, multiple variants, I think, of Chromax. Yeah.
The hip port is very new and may not be completely mature.
No, although I have to say that the performance was quite good.
They
So
okay,
I
yeah,
wasn't
usually it
disappointed.
will probably perform a little bit better than sickle in everything that both versions support, but it may not yet support everything, is what AMD said us.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I did notice that at least the Chromax run, it can offload fewer things to the GPU if you use the hip build. So there's more of the physics that can be offloaded if you use the sickle build. But then our hip build was actually performing better. So I don't know.
If you only use functionality that is in the hip build, then it will. Then it seems to be quite good indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, just to mention, I indeed hit the same issue when I was working on NVIDIA stuff in the Chromax Easy block with either using HEFT for multi-GPU FFT or the QFFT MP thing from CUDA. But if you would enable that one default, it might not work on systems which don't meet the requirements that you need for this NV shared mem thing. Then have to be connected in a certain way. And I tried just running that on a system without it and hoping that it would just fall back to not using it, but it just crashes. So that's, I guess, something we cannot ship in easy. Well, we can ship it, but then we ship multiple variants and people just have to pick at runtime which one they can and want to use on their system.
Yeah, then
So
maybe we need to create some dedicated documentation page that people get a pointer to if they load a Chromax module or yeah, there is things you can do.
Yeah. But I guess it makes sense to just have multiple variants in the easy configs repo or have some easy config parameter that you can set to pick the version that you want to have. But maybe that's a little bit less clear.
Yeah, I guess you want this explicit in the modules. I mean, if the installations are different and have different purposes, that's not a problem we can solve. The best we can do is then try to nudge people in the right direction, having some good documentation, or working with the Chromax developers on getting good guidelines, because we know they're open for at least some level of collaboration and at least answering questions. So hopefully this only applies to Chromax and not many other things, because then it's definitely going to get interesting.
It's going to be a long version suffix.
Yeah. Well,
CUDA version, blah, 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 FFT something, dash plumed version.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. What else? Credits, yeah. Bob, I think you also did this one.
Yeah, so the cost increased a little bit for the last 2 months. I guess that may be related to spinning up some new clusters, Alan. I think that those are showing up here. So the one you set up for Zen 5 and the new one that you set up in Ireland.
Yeah, I took down the Ireland one last week after the copy failed thing, and I'm going to rebuild it with the latest Magic Castle. But I haven't done it. I meant to do that this week, but I haven't done it yet. But yeah, a lot of the cost is just disk space, right? The 5 terabytes of disk cost money, and it was just sitting there. So Yeah.
We are so that new build cluster in EU West is going to become our new production one, right? So then we can tear down the other one once we've completed the migration. We just need enough time to spin it up, set it up, and then test it enough until we're confident that we can move things there. So this is all done in the background essentially.
And the old one is really old by now and running old versions of stuff like Slurm. So
yeah,
it would be nice to switch to
time to get rid of it for sure. Yeah.
But other than that, we got that big batch of credits for 2026. So this is still more than enough to cover for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And at the current rate, we're never going to spend that entire budget.
Well, we have some plans in ISC. I'm spoiling slides again, but in ISC we have an easy tutorial. I mean, we may spin up a temporary cluster there to give people some hands-on experience. And okay, that's only for like a day, so it doesn't cost us much, but you can definitely use credits also for other things. But yeah, this is clear. It's very helpful. Gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of things we don't need to spend time on. Okay, then the steering committee. It says interim. I shouldn't say that anymore, actually, because I consider this no longer interim. So we haven't had a meeting since last February, so before the previous update meeting, but another one is scheduled for next week. So we'll talk about more or less the same topics that we talked about before, but we'll probably prioritize them a bit different and try to focus the discussion a bit. Nothing really shocking and nothing that will immediately impact the way we run the show currently, but it's good to have these meetings and talk a bit on the higher level, let's say, on things like funding or avoiding single points of failure. So whoever now has the keys to the kingdom in some sense, we should try and figure out ways to avoid that and make sure we're safe going forward. So not too much to mention here, actually. Then the happy hours, Richard, you've been running that show for a while now.
Yeah, so we've been running happy hours since August 2025. And in 2026, we have covered all 14 sessions for now. But the happy hours are now in a resting stage, and we're running the easy webinar series instead. Yeah, surely there is a difference between the contents of each, and hopefully we'll be back to the happy hours on the 8th of June. And we'll be focusing in the month of June in the happy hours on site-specific topics. So also I would like that anyone from the attendees, if anyone would like to present something, discuss something site-specific with EESSI, feel free to reach us and we can arrange a session for you so that you can present what you have. After June, we will see how to proceed. Maybe after the summer vacation, we can go with new subjects that may come up or new changes with EESSI. But up until then, this is the schedule that we have.
Yep. And these are open calls, right, Richard? You don't need to register. You can just show up to the Zoom link.
Yes, exactly. So even though we have a specific topic and a series which we follow, but basically anyone with any question, EESSI related question can be discussed during the session. Even any of the attendees can present a live demo or show us what they have and we can help further. Yep.
And all of these are also recorded and recordings are available through the docs as well. Yeah, this has been very interesting. It's a nice way of opening up to the community, let's say, and giving people a chance to learn something new or to ask questions and look into stuff hands-on together.
Exactly.
So definitely way less organized than these update meetings are. So there is let's say, a short presentation, a couple of slides, 10, maybe maximum 15 minutes. And then it really goes into discussion mode. And yeah. Okay. Then, yes, Alan, maybe you can cover this as well.
Yep. So there's an ongoing webinar series for the EFP. 3 of them have already taken place, or 4 even now at this point have taken place, and there's 1 more coming on EFP workflow. So it's in more than a month now. It's on the 11th of June. The webinars were all recorded, so they're all available through the link above. Our one was already a while ago, and the last one was on the authentication stuff. That was last week. There was a lot of questions around that. A lot of people interested in that topic. So maybe that's interesting for this group as well. But yeah, that series is coming to the end, and the last one is coming up. It'll probably happen again. We'll see, but I would expect to see it like every 6 months or at most every year. Something like this will happen, I suspect.
Yeah, typically when a big new series of Euro HPC projects will start, it would be interesting for us to give an updated state on all of this. Right. Then the EasyBuild user meeting, which happened 2 weeks ago in Portugal. So 3 days of EasyBuild fun, lots of talks. I forgot the count, but it's 20 something presentations in 3 days. We wrote up a blog post on each of these days separately on the EasyBuild blog. So if you want to learn a bit more high level what the talk was about, see some pictures and get links to the slides and the recording for each of the talks, you can check there. Or you can just go to the YouTube playlist or the link here in the slide, which has a directory with all the slides of the presentations. So all of this is done as open as we can. People were able to join remotely via Zoom. We had about 50 people in the room for most of the days. So this was, a very nice event. We're already thinking about where to do it next year. And it's not decided yet, but one of the options is going to Canada for once and seeing how they've been running the show there with EasyBuild and their Compute Canada software stack. So to me, that would be interesting. But there's other options as well. Then we have plans for ISC coming in June. We submitted a tutorial, a half-day tutorial, which was accepted. So that will be run on Monday afternoon. And we asked nicely to not do it at the same time as the half-day spec tutorial. And they agreed that was a good idea. So the spec tutorial is going to be in the morning. The easy tutorial is going to be in the afternoon. We also have 2 relevant birds of a feather sessions. So one on easy specifically, that's going to be on Thursday morning at 9 a.m., which is a bit of an unfortunate slot, but we'll make it work. Actually, it was a similar slot we had last year, I think. And then there's one on the Euro HPC Federation platform as well on Wednesday morning, but not that early. And we hope to have several booth talks at the exhibit as well. Probably at the Do IT Now booth, at the Lumi booth, even with the Euro HPC Federation platform, maybe something at Euro HPC, and I'm sure we'll find our way into other booths as well. We'll probably also organize some kind of social meetup. So I'm not sure if you have a channel already in the Easy Slack for ISC, but keep an eye on that if you're planning to attend ISC. And we'll figure out a good time to have a social event as well. I would say rather Thursday evening than Wednesday evening, because if we have the buff on Thursday morning, Wednesday evening may not be the best option. Then another thing, then Alan, Lara, and me, and Davide as well will be in Bologna in about a week or 2 for tutorial/hackathon. Which we're organizing together with Massimiliano and Harman, so 2 SPAC developers. This is going to be interesting because it will be a chance for us to introduce EasyBuild and Easy for people at Cinica in Italy as well. So this is done in collaboration with the MAX Center of Excellence, the HPC Center of Excellence. It's 3 days. On Tuesday, it's going to be introductory level on EasyBuild, SPAC, Easy, and EFP. On Wednesday, it's going to be shorter presentations, but a bit more in-depth on specific topics, together with some hands-on. And then on Thursday, it's essentially a free-for-all where people can pick what they want to play with. Maybe it's pack, maybe it's easy, maybe it's easy build, or whatever combination thereof. And we will be walking around together with Massimiliano and Harman to give expert support and answer any questions that may pop up. This is the in-person attendance for this is actually locked down to people from Cinica and Max, so local people in Bologna, because they were a bit concerned about available seats. So those are essentially all taken now, but you can still register for remote attendance for the Tuesday and Wednesday presentations. So that's going to be, this says Zoom. I'm making assumptions here, but that's going to be the easiest option, I guess, to do it through Zoom. So you can still register for that if you're interested. The link is there on the slide, and the registration for the remote attendance is open until the end of next week. Okay. And then, as already mentioned, the EESSI webinar series is currently ongoing. We've had 2 sessions so far, a high-level introduction, an up-to-date introduction to EESSI, which was presented by Helena. Lara and I gave a webinar on Monday that focuses more on how to build software on top of EESSI and how to contribute things to EESSI. Next Monday, Alan is going to talk about using EESSI in CI settings, so for software testing, continuous integration. We're going to have an update on CernVMFS by Valentin the week after. And then with the week in between, we're also going to look at using EESSI as a base for central software stack. So like they have been doing in Austria, like they are planning in Groningen, where also within Flanders and in Ghent, we're planning to start doing this. So that will be interesting as well. So you can still register for the next 3 sessions. The recordings of the first 2 are already available through the EESSI documentation. And we are trying to organize a separate webinar series on EESSI Build as well, which may be 2 or 3 more or less 1-hour sessions. So reintroducing EESSI Build with a focus on EESSI Build 5 and any new features and bells and whistles we have in there. So that's going to be fully online as well and free to attend, of course. And then to wrap up, there's the mailing list. Bob, anything special to highlight here?
No, not really. It's still using this really old-fashioned way of subscribing.
Yeah, well, it works, so that's okay.
Yes, I hope so.
Just send an email with subscribe EESSI and first last name to the mailing list, and then you'll get subscribed. I guess you'll get a confirmation thing first.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Then you can also unsubscribe if you want to. This is very low volume. It's essentially only used to announce the meetings, and usually not as last minute as I did today. But we may also send an email there about the activities at ISE, for example. So any big events or stuff may also be announced in there. I think we also sent an email for the webinars there. Yeah, we must have. Not even sure. So don't expect a lot of noise if you get subscribed to this, but you'll hear about the interesting things. And then, yeah, next meetings. So we're keeping the schedule first Thursday of the month. So the next one will be July. So odd months only. So every other month. And then September and November. So those are not clashing with any national holidays or public holidays, as far as I know. So we're going to be keeping those. Any questions before we wrap things up? While we're still recording. Nobody has any questions, we'll wrap it up here and stop the recording. So thanks very much. And for the people watching the recording, you can always join next time if you prefer doing this live. So you know where to find us.